I'm Bailey Shobe.
And I'm Brooke Andrade.
And we'll be presenting noise exposure effects on soldiers today.
So, permanent hearing loss is one of the top 4 injuries in current operations. 7 out of 10 of these injuries are due to explosions and blasts, and 50% of blasts result in inner ear damage. So that's a lot of damage. Occurrence of tinnitus and noise-induced hearing loss is increasing annually by 13 to 18%, and veterans are around 30% more likely to have a hearing impediment than non-veterans. So, noise-induced hearing loss, as we mentioned, is a hearing impairment resulting from exposure to loud sounds such as explosions and gunshots. It ranges from a moderate to a severe or profound hearing loss and is caused by damage and the death of hair cells in the ear. It can take place immediately or it can gradually worsen over time, and the degree of your hearing loss is dependent on how close the sound source was and the conditions in which the sound was being generated. So some of the signs and symptoms that you can look out for noise-induced hearing loss are muffled sounds, difficulty to understanding others, and tinnitus. And one of the major problems with NIHL is that most of the time an individual will not notice these effects until it is later on, or they may notice them and ignore them until they become more pronounced. So sometimes exposure to impulse or continuous loud noises can cause a temporary hearing loss that disappears 16 to 48 hours later. However, recent studies show that even though the hearing loss disappears, there may still be residual long-term damage. So you definitely want to be wary of these signs, and if you have any of them, definitely go see a medical professional. So one of the symptoms we talked about is tinnitus, and tinnitus is a symptom of noise-induced hearing loss and of head injuries. Includes hearing phantom noises in your ears, so like buzzing, ringing, hissing. It can cause fatigue, trouble in concentration, and memory problems. It's a symptom of noise-induced hearing loss and of head injuries. Includes hearing phantom noises in your ears, so like buzzing, ringing, hissing. It can cause fatigue, trouble in concentration, and memory problems. In 2014, the VA cost for veterans with service-related tinnitus was around $2.26 billion. So because of this, they have implemented some regulations. So in the 1970s, the Department of Defense established a department-wide requirement for periodic surveys of noise hazardous environments, and these requirements have been a huge help in decreasing some of the effects we see with noise exposure.
So this is exactly how hearing loss works. So sound travels through the ear canal and it hits the eardrum, which causes it to vibrate. This vibration moves in a chain reaction from the eardrum to 3 tiny bones. The last bone in this chain connects to an open space called a window on the cochlea, which is the main organ for processing the vibration into what our brains hear as sound. Hearing loss occurs, as was mentioned before, when hair cells in the cochlea are damaged from overstimulation. Here are 2 types of sounds that you could commonly run into in deployment. They're impulse and impact noise. They usually last for less than half a second, and that would be, all sorts of combat noise, explosions, weapon fire, and your ears can tolerate this a little more because they happen in such short bursts. But then there's steady state noise, and that's sounds that last for more than half a second. They're usually hours going on. And that's noise from tactical vehicles, aircraft carriers, generators, anything that produces a loud sound over a long period of time. And because of this, your ears are much less tolerant. What you can do is wear earplugs. Firstly, though, you should know ear canals are generally S-shaped, so in order to put in an earplug correctly, you have to pull it back and up to straighten your ear canal out. You can't just stick an earplug in and expect it to fit well. You will probably be given combat earplugs, which, they work like regular earplugs, but they have different settings based off of the decibels that you're likely to be exposed to.
And so this picture is a diagram that we like to show because it shows commonplace noise compared with warfare or combat noise. So it shows like a good range. So the earplugs are recommended for anything above 85 decibels, and with them damage can occur. So anywhere above 85 is not good for your ears, but especially if they're above 140, that's when instant ear damage occurs. So as you can see below, the vacuum, the violin, the ticking watch, they're all in the safe range, except maybe the violin if you're listening to it for a very long period of time. But other than that, they are in the safe range. However, you'll notice that the helicopter, the grenade, and the tank are not in that safe range. The grenade especially, because it's at 160 decibels, and we said the 140 is instant ear damage, so you definitely want to be wearing hearing protection or something like that to keep you from getting instant hearing damage.
So some studies on hearing loss were done. In one study, there were two different groups, one labeled with good hearing, one labeled with bad hearing in a simulation, and they were both given radios, but the group with good hearing was given a radio that was fine, no impedance. The group with bad hearing was given a radio that was filtered to simulate poor hearing. In the group with good hearing, only 7% of the tank crew was killed in the simulation. They hit 94% of their enemy target, and only 1% of their commands were interpreted incorrectly. In the group with bad hearing, 28% of the tank crew was killed. They only hit 41% of their enemy target, and 37% of the commands were interpreted incorrectly. So it's important to keep good hearing. In another study with over 3,000 males who were constantly exposed to severe aircraft noise in a military runway area, their hearing loss was measured around between 2 and 4 kilohertz, and the duration of the exposure increased with an increase in rank. From this, 6 conscripts suffered sudden deafness, and overall their general hearing loss threshold decreased. So afterwards, there was a focus on preventing sudden deafness, and as you've probably experienced, pre-enlistment baseline audiogram tests.
Okay, well hopefully this presentation was informative to you guys, and just know that you should keep your hearing in mind. And these are our sources. Thank you.